Here we are, back in the basement, kicking back with the mess of fishing gear all over the place. It's been an exciting couple of weeks. Having had our big adventure of the Fish'n Canada Carp Cup back in May, looking back on that, it was quite an experience. A whole different level than it was the previous year. And I can't say enough positive things about how the event went for all of us involved. It was great to see all of our friends, great to meet new ones, and just that exciting element of having the camera crew there for Fish'n Canada, filming their episode and their extra content, meeting the guys. It was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Having been back now just a couple of weeks, we've gotten our own personal fishing in, had a few nice fish along the way, but the fish really haven't moved in for us back home, so it's been tough. We're actually working harder now to try and get bites here on our local waters than we were in the tournament. But we did work at that tournament. There was 3 teams that came from our Niagara area, kind of our Niagara crew. Demir and myself, of course, Goldie and Kevin, who teamed up this year, and yeah, our good buddies Dave and Clint were able to team up, with Dave having won the radio show contest for his spot in the tournament. The 6 of us were up there and fished our hearts out, and yeah, I think we're all happy with where we ended up in the standings in the end. But yeah, it was tough. I can't speak too much for the other 2 teams, Dave and Clint and Goldie and Kevin. I know they had a great time. I know they fished hard and they did really well. But I do know for Demir and I, man, that first 2 days of that tournament were tough. We just didn't have fish on us. 1 fish first thing in the morning on the first day, and then nothing else until the 3rd day when the winds changed and the fish finally started to move into our spots. So we had a long, hard crawl to go up, watching everybody catch their fish and get up into their, their 4 fish and start culling. We were sitting there with 1 little 16-pounder just holding us out until, yeah, that 3rd day when things really turned around for us. Now, before we get into how the standings went, I do want to mention that a lot of the guys that were at that tournament, everybody tried their hardest, and there was some amazing fish caught, some really big fish. But funny enough, I didn't get the big fish this year. That did come to a new team, some newer anglers that joined in this year. It was over 30 pounds. I don't actually remember the weight myself. I'm sure Goldie will post a little graphic that says what the weight was. But an absolute monster. There was a few really big fish caught. But the one special thing that came from Demir and I was the mirror. The only mirror of the tournament. Now, the circumstances surrounding how that fish was caught would be better described during a blooper reel. But he did catch it on my rod, so it's kind of a 50-50 out of that team effort. But it was Demir's first mirror, and really proud of him. It was a great fish and an amazing run. Man, that fish just took right off. We also did manage 1 decent fish of our own, a 29-pounder, amongst the other quality fish that we weighed in. But yeah, it was tough going, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of really great fish, a lot of great memories, and always great to see our friends. So with that, let's keep in mind that we did in fact have a contest leading into the Fish'n Canada Carp Cup this year. The contest was for this stuff right here, the hat, the boilies, and the hooks from Monster Carp Tackle. Yeah. What was it? You had to guess the weight without going over, as far as what Demir and myself would end up with, our final weight of the 4 fish. And, as a secondary part to that, the same prize pack for those who guessed the correct weight of 4 fish for Kevin and Goldie. Now, I will say that both of our teams weighed in 4 fish. In fact, when you look at the standings, Goldie and Kevin were in fact the last team in the standings to weigh in 4 fish. Everybody below them in the standings either had 2 or 3, or unfortunately, we won't mention names, but there was in fact one team that wasn't able to produce a fish through the tournament, which is unfortunate. You know, they're good anglers and they should have been able to catch, but as it was with us for the first 2 days, the winds just weren't right. The fish were obviously somewhere else. But yeah, 2 teams, 2 weights, 2 guesses. How did it go? Well, I have a little piece of paper here. Got some details on it. And yeah, it was interesting. There was a lot of really interesting guesses there. Specifically, I want to say that I did like that some guesses put Goldie and Kevin with a heavier weight than Demir and I, even though we all know that Demir and I catch much bigger fish than Goldie and Kevin. Oh, who am I kidding? Kevin and Goldie have caught some pretty big fish themselves, and you know, I don't want to take a shot at you, Demir. You know, I love you, buddy, but you just haven't hit that 30s club yet, and both of them have. So, you know, it was neat to see the way the guesses have gone, and yeah, how people were kind of picking and choosing. There was a lot over 100 pounds, 110 pounds. I think somebody even guessed like 160 pounds. It was a little bit crazy. But for Canadian waters, a 4-fish bag, the weights were pretty big in the end. So, you know, the first place and the 5th place, there wasn't much difference in weights there. Now, of our 3 teams, I do want to mention that our buddies Dave and Clint did finish in 5th. And that came right down to the end, because I know Demir and I had moved up in the standings and were sitting at 5th at one point in time. But with Clint sneaking that last fish out, I know that bumped them up a little bit. So yeah, Dave and Clint finished in 5th place with 101 pounds, 10 ounces. So, you know, great on you guys. You did a great job. And, you know, you caught a lot of fish that, you know, really turned it around and made you get that top spot. You know, your last spot for the prizes. So as far as Demir and I and Kevin and Goldie go, unfortunately, we didn't make the top 5. We really tried, but we didn't. Demir and I actually finished in 7th this year with a total weight of 94 pounds, 15 ounces. A little shout out to our follower Gareth Price. He did in fact come up with the closest guess of 95 pounds, 4 ounces. Unfortunately, buddy, as the rules say, closest without going over, and you did go over just by a little bit. So it turns out that Jason Zolka was the winner of the prize pack, the hat, the boilies, and the hooks, with his guess of 86.6 pounds. So he was the closest without going over. It's kind of a big gap there that nobody really guessed in that range. So Jason sucked that one right in, got the prize pack. So it turns out that I don't think we need to message Jason and say, you know, send me your address so I can mail this off to you. Jason is actually a good buddy of ours from Team Unwanted. I fished with him many times. You know, I would never say no to sharing bank space with Jason. Really good guy. I'm just going to take it to you the next time I see you, pal. Unless you really want me to mail it. And then I'll put it in a nice big fancy box with a big pink bow. But yeah, we can get that to you as soon as possible, Jason. Great job on getting your guesses in there. I will say that, believe it or not, Jason was actually the closest guess for Kevin and Goldie's weight. With 74 pounds, 2 ounces, his guess was in fact over the weight. It went too high. Kevin and Goldie finished in 11th place, very respectable 11th place, like I said, with a 4-fish bag, the last of them. Their weight was 66 pounds, 14 ounces. Very impressed, really glad that they got a 4-fish bag and were able to do that. You know, the whole time we were at that tournament, word kept getting around. We were all, you know, talking on social media, texting, phone calls, and it was just amazing how much positivity came from that peg. Everybody just talked about how much fun Kevin and Goldie were having, and what a great time they were having with the camaraderie with the peg next to them. Our friends Vince and Eddie you know, them sharing meals together and helping each other out. That resonated all the way through the tournament. The camaraderie was amazing, but everybody specifically heard about those two pegs and how close they were. And it just goes to show, you know, the carping community here in Canada is a really great community, and they were prime examples of that. So yeah, it turns out that nobody actually guessed low enough to take the prize pack for Kevin and Goldie, with Jason having been the closest but being over. So Jason will win this prize pack for guessing with Demir and I. But since nobody took the other prize pack, we're going to hang on to that. We're going to beef it up, throw a few extra things in there, and then when we decide to have our July contest, once we figure out what that one's going to be, we'll put that one out there. And I think that's how we're going to do things. Anytime we do have a prize pack that does not get one, we will just hold on to it and make it bigger for the next one. So I want to throw out a big congratulations to everybody who participated in the Fish'n Canada Carp Cup, all the organizers, the behind-the-scenes crew. It just, you know, you guys are all great. Love spending time with you, and definitely look forward to next year. So that pretty much wraps up our contest. A small update of what we've been doing with, you know, the few fish we've been getting. Kevin's had a number of fish. Goldie's had some. I've had a few. Has there been any other news we got to cover, Goldie? There's nothing else on my paper. Was there? Do you recall?
There might be one thing.
One thing.
One small thing.
What was that small thing? Oh, yes. A very special. I don't know how I could almost have forgotten this. It was only, what, 3 days ago? 2 days ago? Yeah. You're going to throw the fireworks up here because this is important, right? This is the PB alert, personal best update. But who is that for? Well, this guy. It may not look like I'm overly excited right now. I think I'm still kind of in shock by it. Leading into this particular happening, we'll call it. Actually, funny enough, the Canada Carp Cup of 2017 is when I set my PB of 32 pounds 11 ounces, the big fish of the tournament, and one that I thought would go quite a while before I would beat. Especially after Goldie had that 36 pounder back in November. I was like, you know, there's no way I'm going to catch him. He's going to have that one over me for quite some time. But it turns out, despite the slow activity lately in our local spots, and yeah, just a lot of the smaller fish that have been coming out for us, it turns out that, you know, we had just this spontaneous session come up. A little bit of time after work that we snuck out, went down to one of our spots. I'm not going to say where. And yeah, just we were getting hit with really bad wind, and we were shuffling the equipment around, but the lines were in. And that's what was important. We had a few hours to kill, and we had a typical big fish bite. Drop back, little bounces, and then I was not prepared for what happened next. Probably one of the hardest and most gut-wrenching, knee-knocking, weak all over kind of fights I've ever had with a fish, let alone a carp. It just seemed like I wasn't gonna get this fish in. Every time I got that fish within a rod length or two of this drop off where we were fishing, you know, where the net could just about reach out to, would just get it close, and all I could see is this massive dark shape under the surface, but couldn't clearly see what it was. Just to get it right in range there, and we're like, okay, almost I can just pull it that little bit and get it in the net, and man, that fish would just peel off, and there would go 60 to 80 yards of line, just like that. And go straight out, and then go straight down, off to the left, off to the right. It did this back and forth. You know, I would think I'm winning, and then no, that fish just did its own thing. It was over 15 minutes. I think closer to 20 minutes this battle went on like that. I don't know how I was able to keep my balance standing there. My arms were sore, my shoulders were sore, my back was sore, my knees were like rubber. I could barely stand on that spot. And Goldie was just waiting there patiently at the water's edge with the net in the water, poised, ready to go. As soon as it was close enough, he was going to get that net under it. But it just seemed like that fish was never going to get me the chance, and I could never clearly see it. All I could see was just this massive dark shape. But when it finally went over the net cord, you know, I looked at it and all I remember is saying to Goldie, that's got to be a new PB. That's a massive fish. It's got to be a PB. Is it my PB? And I'll never forget these words. For Goldie to look down at this fish and just flat out say to me, that dwarfs my PB. I'm starting to get goosebumps right now just thinking about that. It was such an amazing moment just to see this huge fish, and then for him to say that, and then as he lifted the net out of the water and I started to see the fish rise up, I could see the back come out of the water a bit, and then it just kind of laid on its side, and I saw this massive body, this huge head. It was just, I knew that this was an absolute beast of a fish. I know I was yelling a lot. I know I was swearing a lot. I was ridiculously excited, but I was still kind of frozen and jammed up with my legs just being numb from standing there trying to hold my position while I fought this fish. You know, I do want to mention I had 15-pound mono on. I didn't even have the spool of braid on. You know, I got my braid right here, but yeah, the other reel had the mono. I was just used to catching the smaller fish that we'd been hitting, so I just left it on. So that made it even more tense. But the fish was in the net. Goldie managed to take care of that and get it up the embankment to where the unhooking mat was. And I sat down right beside it as he put together a camera, got the scale sorted, got the water sorted. And I pulled that net back just that little bit to get a look at what my prize was. And I started to reach for where the mouth would be so I could take that hook out, and I just saw this head just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, let's show you a clip, you know, a short clip we got from the bank. Goldie put a camera on as soon as we got this fish unhooked and I lifted it up off the mat for the first time. Take a look at that, and I'll be right back. PB alert. 42 pounds, 9 ounces. Oh my God. What an incredible fish. What a long, hard fight. Absolutely incredible fight. It was an easy 15 minutes or more. Just, I get it right close within a rod length, and then out it would go and take out 60 yards of line. And then back in. It was just back and forth, steady. The frame on this fish is incredible. It's deep bodied, it's thick, it's just absolutely massive. The tail is as big as my head. Some water on it. Oh. So there we are, my new personal best, and probably one I will never ever beat. Certainly not with a Canadian fish. I can't see how I would ever come close. 42 pounds 9 ounces. Finally, never thought I would make it. Always wanted to, but never thought I would hit the 40s club. Just an unbelievable fish. and it was really hard. I was shaking sitting in the chair afterwards, you know, immediately talking to Kevin, and actually being very delayed and nervous about telling Demir about this fish, just because I knew he would taunt me and tease me about it. But to have the support of our friends like Kevin and Goldie and Demir and Will and Dave, you know, talking to all these guys about that fish right away, it just, it made that moment even more special, to hear their words of encouragement and congratulations, you know, as we all do when one of us gets a big fish. But it really added to just how special that fish was, to hear the kind words from such good friends. Yeah, to take that fish down to the water and to hold it in the water and just feel the life come back to it as it recovered from the fight, and being on the mat, just looking down on its massive frame, and just to kind of feel that movement starting to come back, and then just have it take off so quickly. I'm never ever going to forget that. And you know, we all, every time we have that one special fish, whether it's a PB or not, we all have those fish that have those special moments. You know, just the friends we're with at the time, the location where we are, or you know, a fish that somebody else has caught, and you caught it under circumstances that, you know, just help give it that extra feeling. This was one of those times, and yeah, it's going to stay with me forever. So yeah, exciting news I wanted to share, because there's a lot of friends that I haven't told yet. We've been making them sweat it out and wait. There you go, 42 pounds, 9 ounces, a Niagara region 40. Yeah, we've got some big carp here. You don't always have to go to Long Sault. You don't always have to travel down to the States. You don't have to go to France. We've got some big fish here. It's not just about the bass and the walleye and the muskie and the salmon and the trout. Our carp are giants here. So yeah, that wraps up our contest, our updates, and our special news. I guess it's time to get a good night's sleep and plan for the next time we're out on the bank, because yeah, we need to get back to getting some videos out, and the only way we're going to do that is if we get back out fishing. So until the next contest comes around, might as well just get back out on the bank. Where's my gear?
Yeah! Yeah! Yes!